Greetings, good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on the time you're listening. Welcome to another episode of the Smart Cities podcast. It's brought to you by the Zoom Global Smart Cities Association. My name is Vitor Pereira, I'm your host, and today I will have a good friend with me, Nicola. He's a co-founder of our association. We'll be talking about special and amazing city in Portugal called Caldas da Rainha. Stay with us for the next minutes and I promise you will have a true will to visit Caldas da Rainha. Nicola Henriques, welcome.
Thank you.
Besides the Zoom Global Smart City Association, Nicola is also an active citizen here in this amazing city of Caldas da Rainha. 1 hour from Lisbon, and very famous for creativeness, arts, thermal water treatments, besides many other things like food, for example, and beach, and fish, and lagoon, and so many other things. Caldas has also been recently named and declared UNESCO Creative City, for example. It's a big reward. Nicola, you are running one of the creative hotspots here in Caldas da Rainha and in Portugal, you must say. It's called Contentor Criativo. It's a project with many years already. Can you talk a little bit about your project?
Before everything, thank you, Victor, for inviting me for this podcast. What about
Continue!
You're asking about...
Wait.
Right. What's the bonito circo? Thank you very much for inviting me for this amazing podcast. What I can tell you about the project that I'm running for 10 years. I was the mentor and I implemented this project. It's a creative hub. I would call it like an informal creative incubator. It's a project based on an old factory that's very close to the center city. In fact, it's inside the urban area.
We're going to mix some videos from the place. You have some videos, some background. It's an old deactivated cereal silos, the storage of the cereals. Long time ago.
Yeah, it was a building that was built in the 50s. So since the 1980s, 99, it was deactivated. So 10 years after, I looked into the building and as a creative city that it has a long history on painting, on pottery. And sculpture. Me as a former student from the art school, it's one of the highlights also of this area and the city. It's the School of Arts and Design, and I was a student at the time. I decided to try the luck of bringing to this territory a creative hub and try to connect the city with the school and empower what in fact gets out of that school. And how could the city improve the offer, mostly in the life quality with the relation of creatives. So what we do is to give a middle step between the academic life of those who choose the city to live and to empower the young creatives and their relation with the city, and make the city more livable and a better city for the future.
10 years already. It's a long time working with the creative people. And Caldas da Rainha is very special because we all know what creatives looking for. It's like a good atmosphere, culture, events, nice cool places to go, to eat, to drink, to have a life. But Caldas doesn't look at the first. It's not the first option, at least for when you are watching the cities all over the world, you can imagine what is all going on in this city.
Yeah.
That's what makes the Caldas very attractive also, right?
Yes, it's not at least at the moment one of the highlights of tourism in Portugal, and it's also part of kind of a situation of cities who have really the tools to attract tourism and investment, like big cities and like Lisbon and Oporto and Braga, and these middle-sized or small-sized towns who work like satellites for those cities can improve from the fact of being that close. Because, for instance, Lisbon is one of the #1 capitals in tourism in the world, and it's been too crowded also for young entrepreneurs and creative entrepreneurs. So the satellite cities around Lisbon, Caldas da Rainha is one of those cases, have now a window opportunity to profit in wherever we might think of areas of profit. My area is intellectual capital, creative intellectual capital, with the fact of those big cities being overcrowded. Caldas da Rainha is strategically very well positioned. It's by the seaside. We're between two of the most world famous locations on surf. We have Peniche with the surf world tour passing by once a year, and we have on the north Nazaré with the biggest wave in the world. And Caldas da Rainha has this creative energy since creators in other eras, like Manuel Mafra, like José Melhor, like the well-known Bordal Pinheiro. And the School of Arts brings an empowerment and make us look to the future with even more brightness in our eyes. The fact of being an area very productive, because the land itself is very productive in fruits and vegetables, also brings this energy of creating, of fertility to this territory. The project I run, Silos Creative Container, in Portuguese, Silos Contentor Criativo, aims to bring that energy to the eyes of everybody, empowering one of the most important axes of development, strategic development, that is tourism. If we really are able, and we're being able, our data present us and tell us that the creatives that we're helping to empower and to relate with the community are an added value for the tourist development, not only in Caldas da Rainha, but in the surroundings like Peniche, Nazaré, and even to Leiria, that is also, as you told, as Caldas da Rainha is a UNESCO territory.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Caldas has been recently declared the UNESCO Creative City.
Yeah.
So, what are, in your perspective, the main advantages, or what can happen to the city that didn't happen before? This can be. We are listening some critics about UNESCO sites. They are being. Normally, the UNESCO recognition was meant to be a protection seal, but actually, in some places, it become a little bit clashing with the protection objectives. So what do you think will happen to Caldas in the next years?
I think most of all let's call it the stamp of UNESCO. It's bringing more responsibility to the actors. We have well-known patrimony in the city. We're part of 7 UNESCO stamps, and that is also another part of the discussion to how many stamps UNESCO is able to give to a territory. Is it good? Is it bad? Does it bring over tourism, over visitors? Is it good or not for the development of territories? Are we exquisite enough to protect the patrimony due to the over tourism that might overcome with that? But the fact is that for us it's an increase, at least for the city, is an increased responsibility in the rebirth of the most known industry of our city, that's ceramics. And of course it had his golden age till 20-15 years ago. Then it had a period where it wasn't so active. And in the last 5 years, a lot of action has been taken to bring the rebirth of ceramics to Caldas da Rainha, not only in the industry, but with the small, creative, contemporary creators and producers. So there's an energy in the city, and the actors and the stakeholders are feeling that responsibility of sharing, of carrying the material and the immaterial patrimony on arts and crafts. As in fact the specific acts of the UNESCO stamps in which for the one we were awarded. Mm-hmm. That we're in the middle of seven stamps of UNESCO creative cities in a territory of approximately 70 kilometers wide. So it's quite dense. Some of them are on patrimonial physical heritage, and the others are on like the Caldas da Rainha arts and crafts, and Lady just 40 kilometers from here for the music. So for me, I think that for the most part of the stakeholders, definitely it's another responsibility that we have to share strategically in order to not to lose the stamp. It's an honor for us to have it and to make it balanced with what's about to come. Mm-hmm. We're talking about tourism that's also booming in our region.
Yeah, actually you mentioned Leiria, the other stamp for the UNESCO, for the music city. But in reality, Caldas creative citizens and creative people also mix with the music. We have very well-known creative people coming from this area. So focusing only in craft and arts, it's enough for a city, or you should keep it wide and not just focus on one thing.
Definitely,
because it's an ecosystem.
Yes.
Thrives, right?
Yes, I can tell you that a few weeks ago I was discussing this with one of the responsibles in Leiria for Leiria is going to applying also for the European Creative Capital in 2027. And the fact of having that let's call it umbrella, and in the very closely as Óbidos, 6 kilometers from here, also has the creative stamp on literature. So we have here 3 on artistic access, creative access, that are aiming to articulate. So what we can see it's potentially after those discussions that have been taking place, articulation between literature, arts and crafts, and music. And all the actors from the 3 cities, Óbidos, the village, Caldas da Rainha, and Leiria, are beginning a work in which the mixing, the crossed languages will for sure in a very short time bring new content. Mm-hmm. None of us, of course, will survive. It can survive, but it will by itself.
Mix of everything.
Yes, and
it's a small territory actually.
Very small territory. Portugal is a small country, and this territory, the west, it's even smaller. Of course, it has a lot of potential. It has a lot of highlights. The structures are being prepared, and some of them are already established. We have very good means of communication. And we're beginning to sketch projects that include the 3 territories and the 3 stamps that will for sure empower the creativeness in this area. So never alone, we all wish to collaborate, we're open to, and things are beginning to articulate. We have also in Caldas very good musicians, we have very good musicians in the music scene. And in the middle there's also Alcobaça, that is also an UNESCO stamp that has 3 spectacular music festivals. So it's all about getting the people and balance the quality and the typology of the projects and put them on. And I'm really aware and conscious that there are actors. We're already creating network to put put things on track. So what we need and what we have is people that are willing to do and that make things possible.
Okay. So this city, you already mentioned a lot of famous people coming from Caldas da Rainha. The most famous one is Bordal Pinheiro, of course. It's a well-known artist that created iconic things. We don't need to show them. Maybe we can put some photos about his work with a red dot in the corner. So. But other important Portuguese artists contributed also for this creative atmosphere. Do you think it was inspirational for youngsters, or by the other way, and turning a little bit back to what we discussed in the beginning, it was the closeness to other big hotspots, but very expensive, not so affordable, that attract some people to check on this place here.
It's interesting, very interesting your question, because in fact, as a satellite city from Lisbon, we can see and read in the history of the naturalist creatives, as I told you, of the last century, like Manuel Mafra, like José Malhoa and Bordal Pinheiro. They were part, two of them were part of a group that was based in Lisbon.
Different artists, right?
Yeah,
Malhoa is
painter, Manuel Mafra, yeah, Malhoa painter, Manuel Mafra also sculpture and ceramics, naturalist ceramics. And Bordal Pinheiro came as a more popular because in fact he was it's a multidisciplinary creative, not only on ceramics but also in illustration.
It's like a Da Vinci.
Yes, and in space design, responsible for the architecture of Portugal. Portugal stand in the Paris Expo. So we can see that it was in fact a man with a lot of competence in several areas of creativity. But it's interesting that at least two of them were part of a group in Lisbon called Grupo do Leão, where intellectuals and creative areas and politicians had discussions. And Bordal Pinheiro handed back to come to Caldas da Rainha and to bring some of those discussions of that intellectual group in Lisbon to Caldas da Rainha. It was supported by the politicians. It had it was cherished by the opinion makers at that time. He was able to establish with his brother the factory of ceramics in Caldas da Rainha. And that relation with the capital, that fact of being based in a so fertile territory, of being cherished by the territory, it's also that you might philosophically establish with the contemporary people who are creating in Caldas da Rainha. Mostly the students. The school has almost 30 years in the city. And it's been engaging creatives with the city. So the atmosphere of the city and the experience of the history with big names, as we said, for example, Bordal Pinheiro, is also being transmitted. So there's an energy of welcoming the creative sector, the creative actors to Caldas da Rainha, and to create the minimum of the conditions so that they can develop and engage with the city. That's one of the main axes, if not the most important axis of the project Silos Contentor Criativo. It's to in fact engage creatives who come from abroad to study, and some of them in artist residence, to engage them with the city. So this bridge can be done. It's a city, has its structures. I intend to classify as the mission of Silos to engage creativity in the city. The first audience, of course, target is the school students, because we gotta cherish the new kids on the block. Yeah, they're the future, and they're working on hyperconnectivity constantly. They bring us visions of the future. So, and that's what we really like to enlighten. And data is being revealed, so that we're about to accomplish that mission as a city. And the city itself, I'm sorry, is creating very good regular implementation, so to cherish the creative class. One of the highlights is, if it means something, and I'm sure it does, it's the presence of the Zoom Global Smart Cities here in the city. The fact of the city being open to cherish.
In fact, we are going to talk a lot about Caldas da Rainha, because Zoom Global Smart Cities is one of the partners of the city to promote good cases and best practices in all sectors of society in the city, within the urban planning or culture planning, or even tourism, or even in technology. So yeah, we'll return to the topic, of course, and with your help. But now I want to know, what are your projects right now? I know we already described a lot of Caldas da Rainha and a lot of what you're doing, what you did since 10 years until now. But I believe you have very tasty events coming to Caldas.
Yeah.
Can you reveal something about that?
Silas is working a lot in this kind of energy that we know that it's structural to territory development. That's in fact create areas of work where people can gather and socialize and create new projects. And of course, there's a lot of been said and done in all over the world in creating these, let's call it co-work spaces, creative hubs. Relation with digital nomads, and we're a country of the South Europe. We have our own characteristics of conservatory, like we'd like to work in collectively, but have a good life. Yeah, a good life,
wellness, and it's the real wellness.
There you go, exactly. But we also like some privacy, and this issue of making analysis on territories and the philosophy or the typology of relation with the other, with the community, in southern countries sometimes it's harder to get in. And what we're doing, and we're about to increase our actions, it's what in fact can differentiate our projects and projects in Southern Europe on co-working, co-living, co-sharing life spaces. And what I think that it differentiates these co-working spaces and co-labs as Silas is the relation with the community. Once you get out of the walls of the co-working spaces and co-living spaces, you have a community where you're inserted to. You just don't live inside your systema. The system is open, and it's much larger, and the exchanges between. So one of the projects that we're about to launch is in the basic. The idea might seem very basic. It's like a creative market in open air in the public space. But in fact, what comes behind all that idea, the relation with the creatives, with the space, with the city, with the audience that goes and buys, with with the citizens of Caldas da Rainha, engaging with the creatives who come from outside, the fact of in a market being also selling, and not only selling, but other forms of creative expression, not being only from abroad, from the university, but also from the city. So engage the creative and productive public in a same space that brings us one of the first and most important spaces of exchanges. Markets aren't an issue from now on. Markets came with almost, I wouldn't say, with urbanization and the need of having the space where products are exchanged. Not only the physical products, but creating relations between people and the territory. So we're launching a monthly project called Bazaar à Noite. We already tested it.
Bazaar by the night.
Bazaar banana. Well, bazaar in Portuguese is like go out.
Bazaar, yeah.
So it's kind of we mix the go out and the bazaar selling in the same concept. It will work on the afternoon and in the evening, and it's one of the projects that we're bringing out. Now we're also thinking in enlarge our physical space. We're in a mill. We're trying to map other spaces in the city so that the relation with the tissue of the city will be much stronger. Mapping small places, small stores where our creatives can improve and begin their own business.
That's really great what you're doing, and obviously we're going to talk more often and more times about these projects, especially the bazaar, which is impressive. It's happening in big capitals around the world, and we don't see when things happen in like cities like Lisbon, these kind of projects. You see, like it's something artificial. It's not natural, not coming from the basic. The basic is not a top down. It's not a down up project. So it's bottom up project. So it's very cool what you're doing. Actually, this is the city behind us. It's like one of the projects that was created here, and now is our background. I'm searching for our gadgets because it's our first time we're dealing with videos. Also, our operator is. I don't know if the camera is still on. Actually, we hope it is. Otherwise, it will be a tremendous waste of time. But one thing is not a waste of time is that we launched this podcast for the talk about cities and projects, and especially talk with people like you and people like others, co-founders of our association that are doing also great projects in Portugal and around the world. So basically, this episode we want to introduce you to Nicola Henriques. It's not the cafe Nicola, it's Nicola without coffee. And he's working with Caldas da Rainha. He's our man from Caldas da Rainha, and we hope you enjoyed our talk. And visit Caldas, visit Silos, and you won't regret.